Hey everyone.
Hello.
Welcome.
Welcome back.
Welcome back. Yeah. It is Nicole,
Danielle,
and we are from Spice Pages. This month we read Love Theoretically by Ali.
Yeah.
I was gonna say Ali. That can be right.
Definitely not.
Ali Hazelwood.
Yeah.
This book, if you don't know, it's very popular on Book Talk.
Yeah.
And spoiler alert, we did not like it
At all.
You finished this today.
Yeah.
But you've been reading other books in between. So what are you currently reading?
So at the top of the month, I started a quart of whatever it is. Sorry.
Yes.
I'm not far though, so don't ask me any
Okay.
questions.
But do you like it though? Sorry.
I feel like I still need to actually get into it. I have a page 40 hurdle where it's if I can get past page 40,
Yeah.
then I'll know.
Yeah.
Okay, I like this. But before then, I'm like, we'll see.
Yeah.
But I finished Bliss Montage by Lingma. I think is their name. And she wrote Severance, which I know is also a
I
popular
love
book.
Severance.
Yeah, this is like her follow-up.
I read Severance it's the last book that we read at the local book club right before the pandemic.
That's what everyone said.
Yeah. Okay. Sorry, it cut off, but you're reading a book by the author who wrote Severance.
Yes.
You like it?
Yeah.
All right, cool. I'm reading The Partner Plot, which is the sequel to The Neighbor Favor. I think it comes out next year, February, but I got it early because I work on the illustration for the pre-order campaign. So I'm reading that, and so far it's pretty good. I did finish God of Malice. Everyone on TikTok, you guys are fucking liars. It is so bad. It was such a bad book. It's a story about this girl who is really depressed and she's contemplating unaliving herself because her best friend recently had passed due to suicide. And so she's going to the place where her best friend ended their life. And she's about to jump off a cliff and a man stops her and he's holding her on the cliff and she's like, oh my God, I don't want to die. He's like, pull me up, pull me up. And then he's like, I'll only pull you up if you give me head. And she's like, what? And he's like, yeah. And so she does it, which I would be like, drop me.
Yeah, just drop me
immediately.
Now. Yeah.
But then she does it, and then she's into it. She's like, wow, that was so dark and mysterious. And they start a relationship.
But I want to let the people know, you heard that ridiculousness. Nicole was still like, Danielle, you should check it out. And I was like, what the why?
Because, and I said it on TikTok, it was rated R Riverdale. Everyone's in a mafia.
Yeah.
They're mafia affiliated kids. And they all go to these universities, but one it's in London. The story takes place in London.
That kind of makes sense.
Okay.
I'm not gonna lie.
There's an American university and a British university, and there's wars and an underground boxing club. It's
with
not
the Nepo babies.
the Nepo babies. The Nepo babies are drawing blood underground. People are making bets and it was just so stupid. Yeah. But I finished the entire book. Yeah, I would not recommend that book to anyone unless you really want to laugh. And it's really fun.
For a good laugh.
Yeah. What we're talking about today, like I said, is love theoretically.
Yes.
Where do we even want to start? Should we talk about what the story just essentially is about?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
You want to kick us off?
Sure. So it's supposed to be an academia drama love story, right? So you have this lady who has her PhD. She's essentially a post-grad researcher / adjunct. So she doesn't have a lot of job security. She's adjunct at 3 different universities.
Right.
And has this mentor who, assuming she's doing work in his lab, I don't really know. And she's a physicist, a theoretical physicist, and that's important.
God. The one thing about this book that's so annoying is that she makes a lot of assumptions of her readers. That we give a fuck about the different schools of thought of being a physicist or whatever that is. But B, there's a lot of physics puns and jargon and a lot of in-depth explanation as to why this matters.
Yeah.
And it doesn't matter for the reader. We don't care.
Yeah.
But yeah, anyway, sorry, continue.
And it's kind of so because she doesn't have a lot of job security or money, She doesn't have health insurance, so she is a lady of the semi-night. I don't know.
The thing that the writer does is that she gets close to like something that's like kind of spicy and she backs out of it.
She says no, it's too far.
So she's like an escort, but she doesn't have sex with any of her clients.
Yeah, you know, it's kind of like those people in society, mostly women, who are like, I'm not a hoe.
Yes. Nothing wrong with being a hoe though,
but not me.
Yeah,
I'm not sleeping on the first date.
But the whole story starts off where she's going on a date with one of her favorite clients.
Yeah.
His name is Greg. Yeah. He's like a frequent client of hers, and he uses her to go to like family events.
Yeah.
Right? He hires her for that. I'm confused why Greg doesn't have friends. 'Cause I feel like friends could easily do this thing where you bring a friend along and you're like, you'll be my fake girlfriend for the night.
Yeah.
And it's like, great. I feel like that's a lot easier to manage because she can kind of already know what your life is like, who these people are, and it's cheaper than hiring someone, but Greg is rich.
Greg is rich, yeah.
Right, and maybe he doesn't have friends. So,
maybe, yeah.
You know, rich people, I don't know, but maybe not. So, she goes to these parties.
Yeah.
And at the party, she meets Greg's older brother, Jack? Right? Sure. No, I'm sure it's Jack. Jack?
I'm gonna read it. Yeah, Jack.
Jack. The way that the author describes Jack is like my biggest pet peeve throughout the entire novel is that he's like described as like this monster being. Like he's like not in a scary way, but like his height, his chest, he's like a football player.
His peen.
Right. Everything about him. He's like this like massive dude in a room.
Yeah.
Which like, I don't know. It's not too often that I see dudes where I'm like, this is the biggest person I've ever seen.
Also, no shade to academics, but I used to work in academia. Never, not once saw a fine professor like that.
You would be on the field.
Yeah.
Like, you would be in the NFL.
Yeah.
Like, why would you be whatever.
Right.
So she meets this, like, guy at the party, and they have weird vibes. It's very tense. He's very short with her. He's kind of mean to her. And she gets the vibe that Jack, who is Greg's brother, does not like her.
Yeah.
And that is what we know.
Right. And the reader does too.
Right.
Yeah.
And so, next thing that happens is that she's applying for, like, this job at MIT.
Yeah. Full-time, tenure track, job security.
Right. And there's this, like, woman that works there who really wants to. There's, like, one spot, and there's two candidates. It's her and someone else named George. Yeah. Right? And so she gets pulled in, and it's, like, either the opening is for an experimental physicist, right? And she's a theoretical physicist. Yeah. But her recruiter essentially is like, I think you would be so great at this. Yeah. Because I am like you. I believe in theoretical physics. We need someone else on our side at MIT. Yeah. And so she begins to interview.
Yeah. And that's honestly 3/4 of the book. Is this ridiculously long, drawn out application process, which is like dinners with this person, right? And you're schmoozing, rubbing elbows, and it's like, girl. I mean, I would have gave up, but
but honestly, like the interview process seemed to only be like 3 days. It wasn't that long, you know, of her doing it. She also doesn't tell her mentor about it because her mentor. Well, okay, so they know the lead physicist of the program is some guy called something, like Dr. something Smith, right? And he wrote an article that went into, was it a newspaper, a magazine? Yeah. Like it went into a magazine, and the article completely ruined the reputation of the type of physicist theoretical theory, whatever, that she believes in and her mentor believes in. And at the time that article was written, her mentor was the magazine's editor. And I guess he just didn't read the article before he published it?
Maybe.
Sure. And so, like, the entire reputation of the mentor and the entire, like, this way of thinking about physics was, like, completely discredited. It was, like, ruined for, like, years.
Which is so... That's a big hole in the... Like, also, they said that article went out a decade and a half before things in this book are taking place.
Right.
So you mean to tell me 15 years ago, y'all have not recovered? Like, one article, and we talked about this too. He was 17 when he wrote it.
We don't know that till like later on.
But that's so stupid.
That's so stupid because like I feel like that would be part of the narrative.
Right.
Like a teenager was able to submit an article to a magazine that completely opposed the thoughts of the teenager, and it was published.
Yeah.
That would be the story. That would be the story.
Yeah.
Not what the fuck the teenager said.
Right.
Like that would be the story.
Right.
And so whatever. She finds out that the head boss in charge is not only the person that wrote this article that completely ruined her life and her potential career, I guess, but it's also Greg's brother,
Yeah.
who hates her.
Yeah.
And at the parties that she's been going to, she's been lying about her occupation. She's
Yeah.
like, oh, I'm a teacher or something.
A librarian.
A librarian,
Yeah.
yeah. She's like completely like lying about what she does. And so like he knows her as like his brother's girlfriend who is a librarian, who was like the sweet girl, whatever. Not his brother's girlfriend who is able to apply for one of the most prestigious jobs at MIT.
Yeah.
In physics.
Yeah.
And she's like, oh my god, please don't snitch.
Yeah. And when they first meet, like out in this application process, I think at like a dinner, he's like, Elsie's not a, and then he shuts up. And that was also really dumb.
Yeah, I would have caught out immediately. Like,
Right.
Fuck, who are you?
Here?
What? I know her. Like immediately, I'm not keeping the secrets of a
Right.
random girl. I'm like, who?
Right.
Why are you here?
Do you remember the bathroom scene?
Oh, talk about it.
So at this initial, I guess, applicant dinner, there's
Yeah.
all these people from the department there. You know, she meets Jack in the wild for the first time, and they both end up excusing themselves to go to the restroom.
But she does it first. He follows her.
Yes.
Yeah.
And they go into, he holds the door open to the men's restroom. She goes in and they have this conversation. And then people are coming, so he has to like grab her and push her into the stall, put her on top of the toilet so they don't see her heels. And, you know, he's talking really close to her. It was so stupid.
It was so stupid, one. And then also there was a part where like they're overhearing the conversation of the people that came in because
Yeah.
they're like the other professors.
Right.
And they're like, oh man, like who's going to take her job when she gets pregnant? And it's like,
Yeah.
what?
Yeah.
Like that was just such like a day one feminist thing.
Yeah.
And I'm sure there are professors, like male professors, who have that like thought.
Right.
Like, oh man, we're gonna hire this girl who is of like childbearing
Yeah.
age and she's gonna have some kids, and then like
Right.
who's gonna like fill her spots or take her classes when she's out. I'm sure it's like a thought that people have.
Right.
But it's like that was just so random.
It seemed a little formulaic, where it's like, where can we add some misogyny?
Right, absolutely. Absolutely. I was just like, and then you could see that Jack is like tense about it.
Yeah.
And so you know he doesn't agree with it because
Yeah.
he's a different guy. He's not a guy's guy. He's like, I'm a feminist.
Yeah.
And so you know that later on, like, he's going to handle those professors.
Yeah.
I think they get like fired. Not fired or whatever. Something
Yeah.
happens to them where they're no longer in the picture. That was the first time where she like mentions like his size in comparison to hers. And he's like, his massive hands like wrapped around my waist like 2 times. I'm like, girl,
Yeah.
ew. Like, ew. This author writes as if she's never experienced the things that she's writing about. And
yeah.
that is why it feels fake to me. And I think that if you've also never experienced dating like a more masculine, bigger type of guy, or have had like sex with like, you're gonna fantasize about what that experience would be
Right.
like rather than what it actually is like.
Right.
You know, and I
Yeah.
felt like this was like a fantasy without like the dragons.
Yeah.
A little bit.
Oh, yeah.
You know? But okay. So I keep looking down because I have notes down here just to make sure we stay on track. Her mentor.
Yes.
We mentioned he's a piece of shit.
He's a piece of shit.
What does he think about her diabetes? So that's part of it too, though. So she has like diabetes.
We're not laughing at the diabetes, by the way.
There's so much that's happening here. It's like crossing into so many different sectors of like,
Right.
I don't-
Ooh, ableism.
right, like just like different sectors. So she has diabetes, type 1, of course. So it's not her fault. You know, it's one of those where she's an escort, but she's a fuck.
Yeah.
She has diabetes, but it's type 1. Yeah, she's like these. She has diabetes, and she doesn't have health coverage.
Yeah.
And her mentor is like,
You don't need a better job. You can just stay adjunct.
right, even though you don't get health insurance.
She can't pay for freaking insulin.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And she's like, this mentor is giving me great advice.
She's stupid. When any other like good mentor would be like, you need to take care of you and do what's best for you. That means leaving this place where I'm at. Please do that.
Yes.
Also, with the diabetes, I think I told you when I first started reading, there's a line in the beginning when we first find out that she has diabetes. It's really early on. And the author is like, I've had diabetes for 20 years. I won't let it bring me down now. And it's like, what are we doing?
Why? Whatever. Like, whatever. There's also one thing that she does a lot that really pisses me off. And as a woman that was in STEM in college, I got my degree in biology. Like, I was often always the only, or one of the only black women in the room. She makes it seem like, and this is something that pisses me off, that this girl is the only girl in these spaces.
Yeah.
And that's not true.
Right.
There are possibly several other white women in the space, but there's no actual women of color in those spaces. Because oftentimes I was the only one.
Yeah.
Like, that's real.
Yeah.
And so that kind of pissed me off because she never really talks about true diversity in that way.
Yeah.
She only talks about diversity of like, oh my god, like I'm the only girl and da-da-da-da-da. I'm like, you are not the only girl.
Very white feminism.
Right. I'm like, you're not the only girl.
Girl power.
Like that's at the time that this is written, that's not true. Like that's not true.
Yeah.
Affirmative action is working.
Yeah.
There are other women in your position.
Yeah.
But like there aren't any women of color. I can almost guarantee you that in this space.
Even here, we find out George, Andrea, some lady who starts with an M.
Yeah.
There's multiple people around Jack that are women in the program.
100%. And so that kind of pissed me off. So I'm like, I don't like when we pretend that like this is a problem when it's, I mean, of course, there should be more women in the sciences. I'm not saying it's like a perfect system.
Yeah.
But the white girls are not the ones that are suffering.
They're not.
That's the thing that really pisses me off. The white girls are not the ones that are, you will find mentors that are white women. You will find professors that are white women. You will never find, or rarely will you find one that's like black or...
Especially at like an MIT.
Black or Hispanic are the two things that you probably will find a harder time finding. Asian, possibly. Southeast Asian, possibly. But black and Hispanic, don't piss me off. So it actually really pissed me off when I was reading it. But back to the love story. They end up, as she's applying for this like position, they end up falling for each other more deeply. And do you want to share why Jax finds her so compelling?
He likes her because she kind of shifts who she is to match the energy of the room. Like, oh, you're so good at this.
Which is literally just reading the room.
Right.
She's able to read the room.
Right.
This is a very basic skill.
Like, oh wow, I'm in a social setting. Let me talk to people.
Oh wow.
The concept.
There are rich Republicans in this room. Maybe I won't talk about Black Lives Matter. You know? This is a basic social. It's called being charismatic. It's called being social. It's called like just being able to read the room.
Right.
And there is a bit of it where she's like a bit of a people pleaser.
Or a lot, yeah.
It's a lot because she's not able to say her true opinions about anything if she knows it will upset the other person.
Right.
And that is a problem. And I think that like, sure, call it out when you see it. Right. I think that was like a cute thing that he did.
I couldn't tell though if he was calling it out to say, you know, you do this thing where you shapeshift so much because you are a people pleaser. And I want to help you, you know, like a savior complex. I couldn't tell. I couldn't tell.
I think it was that because he isn't that. He is someone that is able to recognize what people need, and then he proceeds by doing exactly what he wants to do, which is called being a man.
To be honest.
Like, that is literally called being a man.
Wait a minute. Maybe you're right. It's like, you're considerate? A concept.
You are a massive, according to the author, white dude in STEM.
Taking up space.
You don't have to give a fuck about anyone's opinions.
Wow, maybe also him being so big is also taking up space.
Like physically.
Yeah.
I didn't... But I don't think she knows that she was doing that. Like, I think she really was like, he's so confident
Yeah.
and knows who he is, and he's gonna help her come out of her shell.
Yeah.
And it's like, no, what actually is that he is a man and she is a woman. And
Yeah.
women are raised to be more socially aware of people's feelings around them.
Right.
And men are raised to do whatever the fuck they want, regardless of people's feelings around them.
Right.
And that is what the dynamic is here.
It really is.
That's this. You can find this all over America.
Yeah.
This is not enough for a story.
Apparently it is. All 300 and something pages.
That's like the biggest thing that annoyed me about Jack.
Jack.
Was that like he behaved as if he was like discovering something untapped within her that no one else would be able to identify, which was really annoying.
That was annoying.
But I don't know if there's anything about Jack that you didn't like.
I didn't get the big hurrah. I didn't think anything he said or he did was really romantic. If we're being honest. If we're being honest.
Yeah, you're right. What did he do for her?
He did nothing.
He took her around. He took her to errands. Like she saw his grandma or his grandma.
That's it. That's not even romantic.
Yeah, there was no big...
There was no romance. No flowers, no...
Oh my
no
God.
huge gesture of love that usually happens, right?
Yeah, he just fucked her.
Yeah, he didn't put anything on the line.
Yeah, he just fucked her.
Yeah, he wasn't at risk for losing his job.
Yeah.
Where was the romance?
Oh my God.
Take notes, people.
You're so right. I didn't even notice that.
There was nothing. Give us nothing. That's what he did.
As we're talking about giving us nothing, let's talk about the spice scenes in the book. As you guys know, our name is Spice Pages, and we try to read books. I mean, we read all types of books, right? But we don't shy away from like the spicy novels, the smut novels, or whatever. And this was listed as like a spicy book to read. And what was the spice that they were using on this? Was it salt? Is that the spice?
I remembered the lines of one scene, and it was like, I came once, then again, and then he was inside of me.
Where is the detailing? Where is the description? All we know is that his hands are massive.
Yeah.
His feet is massive.
Yeah.
Like everything about him is so big. And it's like his shoulders massive.
Yeah.
6-pack, abs, like da-da-da-da. And it's like, okay, but what about the actual intimacy?
Right. Ooh, there was no intimacy.
There was no intimacy.
It was just the deed.
That was it. That was it. And there was this weird thing of her like behaving very like virginal in a weird way. Even though we know that's not the first time that she's experienced sexual interactions.
But it definitely is presented to us that she's inexperienced.
Right.
Yeah.
Even though she herself says in the book that she's had tons of sex with her ex-boyfriend.
Right.
And so it's like, okay, so why are you acting like you don't know what happens when...
I mean, she could be dealing with a lot of early boyfriend syndrome, which is, you know, they don't know what they're doing either. So, you know, two people don't know what they're doing.
This is true. This is true. She also is a people pleaser. Yeah. So I think the one thing that I did like what Jax did. Jack? Oh my God. I'm Jax. And she only had sex when her boyfriends felt like having sex in the ways that they wanted to have sex.
Right.
And he was like, well, what do you want to do? Because that would really turn me on. Like, what do you want to do? And she couldn't articulate that. Mm-hmm. And so he's like, well, let's try different things until you can figure out what it is that you like.
Which is nice. But there's a way to make that spicy too, I feel like.
Also, that's just called having sex.
Yeah.
Like,
there's...
Like, the way the book presented that as if it was like this, like, oh my God, like, he's just so thoughtful. When in reality, that you should only be having sex with guys like this.
Facts. But the bar is obviously in hell in this book. Where it's like, wow... And you're right. You know, let's get on the soapbox for a minute. If I'm not being pleased, or anyone is not, what are we doing here?
Why are we here?
What are we doing here?
If you were not able, if you feel like you are not in a space where you can articulate what you want from your partner, whether it's casual or long-term or whatever, why are you there?
Yeah. Kick them to the curb.
Get out of it.
Yeah.
Find someone who would speak to you like that.
Yeah.
This should be the norm. Stop fucking dudes who don't ask you what you want.
Yeah.
One of my really good friends, I asked him this. I was like, do you ever ask girls what they want? And he's like, why would I ask them that? This is a true story. You know him. He's like, why would I ask him that? He's like, yes. He was like, asked them that, I'm not in 3rd grade. Like, I know how to have sex. He's like, I've never asked anyone that.
Oh my God, because it's a fucking manual and everyone likes the same shit. But, you know, that's another thing. It's treated as romantic here, and maybe that's our issue. We're like, that's not romantic.
It's not.
That is the baseline.
Absolutely. This is like, do you eat ice cream?
Yeah.
Are you lactose intolerant? This is like very like logical conversation.
Yeah.
Do you like X, Y, and Z in the bedroom?
Right. Yeah. And
oh my God.
I couldn't tell if they were trying to make it like, you know, older guy is so much more mature, that kind of trope, but it's like,
yeah.
And we did the math. He's only like 32.
Yeah. And she's like 25 or something.
I will say 25 is the age where you're like...
Yeah, that is the age. And we both said this. Like, we're both in our early 30s. And, like, this is an arc that women go through. Like, I'm not going to play her like she's an idiot. Yeah. Like, in my 20s, I was the same way. Mm-hmm. I did not speak up about what I wanted. Only until I was more experienced did I say, actually, you know, I'm going to say that I don't like that.
Yeah.
And if a guy's like, whoa, you loser, then, like, great, bounce.
Right.
You know? And it's a thing that you discover as you get older and as you have, I mean, almost as you have more sex, but as you like gain more confidence in yourself, you're like, I can speak up for myself in the bedroom.
Right.
But you also said that there was like this tendency that the sex scenes were like so like unrealistic, but everything else was so like academic and realistic.
Yeah.
And that was like really weird.
It was weird.
Like, I think at one point, and maybe not this book, but I think it is this book where she like talks about his penis and how it was just like unrealistically large.
Yeah. Which, side note, who likes that? That's not romantic either. To your point that it reads like someone who has never dealt with them.
Yeah, someone who's never seen or experienced, you know, a penis that is so big.
It is too big.
There is too big.
Yeah. So we're reading this like...
I'm like, ouch.
Yeah.
There was also an issue with like the pace of the book, which like really got under your... I didn't notice it till you brought it up.
Yeah. It bothered me so much. So much. I like... Obviously, you know, things can go a little fast at the end, right? We're at a certain point, like, let's get this done. But I kid you not until like the 300s do we actually get like closure on you know, things that the first 300 pages are taking, right?
Yeah.
Like the first 300 pages are her applying for this job and her also like going, you know, the fucking dance with Jack. Like, what are we doing?
Yeah.
Then she sleeps with him. Then she tells off her mentor. Then she gets a different job. It's too much in like the last 50 pages.
No, you're right. There is like a very slow build up, and then the sex scenes are so quick.
Yeah.
They're so rapid when we spent so much time like detailing other pieces of their relationship.
Yeah.
And then those are so quick and brief and lackluster. And then there's like a conflict, which I think went on for way too long, and then it like zooms all the way down.
Right.
And that's like, yeah, you're right. The pacing was completely off. Conflict, right?
Yeah.
I thought the conflict should have been when she finds out the job that she's been applying for 200 pages was already given to someone else.
Yeah.
It was predetermined. So they had already figured out that they were going to give the job to Greg. And we actually find out that Greg is a woman.
George.
Oh my God, sorry, George.
Yeah.
And I thought that was like shocking. I was like, oh my God, it's a girl. Mm-hmm. But like that should have been the conflict. But she seemed to have, and Jack knew the entire time.
Yeah.
That like the job was already predetermined.
Yeah.
And she was wasting her complete fucking time. That to me, I thought was a much bigger deal than what the true conflict was.
Yeah.
Which I actually don't even really know what it was. So you can, like the magazine?
Yeah. So they get into a fight again in like the last 50 or so pages where they talk about the impact of the letter he wrote a decade and a half ago. Mm-hmm. And she tells him, you don't realize that your actions have unintentional consequences. Mm-hmm. And he reveals that he intentionally went after her mentor because, plot twist, the mentor was also his mom's mentor.
His dead mom.
His dead mom.
His dead mom.
That's not funny, but And so he's like, I intentionally went after him because he did X, Y, and Z to my mom. The other people that were impacted, that was unintentional, but that one piece was. And she's upset at that. She's like, you lied to me.
It's like, what was a lie? That's the thing. What was a lie?
And she's like, you based this all off of your dead mom's diaries? And he's like, yeah.
Yeah, it was 17.
Yeah.
What was the lie, bitch, was the fact that you were applying for a job that wasn't even open.
Yeah.
That was the lie. That's the thing you should be fixated on, your fucking career.
Right.
Not a fucking article that you read
Right.
when you were 7 years old.
Yeah. Yeah. What is the impact on her?
Fantastic question.
She is not impacted by this letter at all. She's obviously up for a job.
Yeah. He fixes it though. He like writes an apology article 15 years later or whatever and mentions her work.
Yes.
As like good theoretical physics stuff. And she's like, oh, it's better.
Side note about the writing and her jobs.
Yeah.
What did you think of the email?
That reminds me, I know you haven't read this book yet, but it ends with us. Colleen Hoover chooses to have the main character write diary entries, but they're like addressed to or like mentioned to Ellen, like DeGeneres. Like, so she's like, "Dear Ellen, today I went to," and you're just like, "Why is this a choice?" You read the entire, it's so stupid. Yeah. That was a similar thing where like randomly we understand that you don't want to be a professor that teaches students.
Yeah. And
so randomly throughout the entire book, we are reading these emails that she's getting from students.
Right.
And it's like, what, like, I felt like it didn't do anything for me.
It didn't.
Like I didn't care.
Also, side note, did you catch up or pick up on the piece where Jack was like, I give all my students A's.
Yeah.
And except for I'll throw in a B or a C here and there. And I was like, the world is so unserious.
Yeah, like these kids are at MIT. They're gonna get A's in physics from MIT and then go off and influence the world in positions of power versus other kids who don't get the same access to Jack's professor, have to actually like prove that they're smart and then get lesser jobs where they report to those guys who didn't actually do any work.
Right.
Let's talk about, what's her name, Elise?
The friend?
No, the main girl.
Elsie.
That's
what her mentor, by the way, keeps calling her Elise. And she doesn't tell him until the freaking end.
That's not her name.
That's not my name. That's so stupid.
I hate her so much. I've been talking a lot about how much I hate Jack and how I think he's just like this, he's just a guy, but she's also just a girl. And I feel like women people pleasing, like that's not our fault sometimes. It's like societal's like influence on us and how we have to like feel like we have to please everyone in the room. But also like she lies about who she is to her best friend who's her roommate. So one of the things that she has lied about is like the shows and movies that she likes to watch. And so her friend is like a really like thespian type of character. Actually don't know what she does for work besides the escort thing. But she's like into like French movies and like dramas and like, you know, just like one of those people that likes to read things in captions. And she's always showing her like Space Odyssey and like old timey movies, and the main character doesn't like those movies. She prefers movies like Twilight. But she doesn't have the courage to say something, and that's weird in itself. But then the author chooses to focus so much on the writer's love for Twilight. I just cannot figure out if the writer only knows Twilight as like a quirky weird thing to like. Because if you like Twilight, then you probably like Teen Wolf, then you probably like fantasy books, you probably like Lord of the Rings, Game of Thrones, da-da-da-da. Or like maybe you go Riverdale or Pretty Little Liars or like Gossip Girl. Like there's so much more than just liking Twilight. And I thought that like that was just such a cheap and easy way of being like, she's not like regular nerd, she's a different kind of nerd. And it's like, no, like people are allowed to be like multidimensional and like different things, but I don't think the writer herself is like that. I think she's a basic bitch. I think she could be like a Disney girl or a Disney adult, or maybe she's like a Harry Potter person. That's like her entire personality. Like I don't think, like she's trying to write the main character as like this multi-dimensional character, when in reality she's just very flat.
I also thought it could have been a little shade, you know, because she's not like a fantasy. This is not a fantasy book at all.
By any means.
And so the thing to make fun of is a fantasy.
Yeah.
Which I think is all the rave right now in book talk.
Yeah.
So I also thought, maybe.
Yeah. She's throwing shade at her main character.
Yeah.
Possibly. I just was like, this is not that big of a deal. Like, you like Twilight, okay?
Right.
Everyone does. It was
Everyone likes something.
Twilight made billions of dollars. Like, you're not the only person.
Right.
like,
Right. And even if there's someone who didn't like it, I don't think they would rag on it like their friend as much as this happens in the book. Like,
100%. And even like her family trauma with her mom.
it is so. I would have preferred the mom have been an alcoholic.
Again, like the writer doesn't make this girl interesting almost on purpose. Like her family drama is like her mom calls her because her brothers are fighting over the same girl.
You know, I could see her maybe shying away from that because she doesn't want it to seem tokeny.
But then you make her so flat.
But then, she kind of pulls on the other tropes, right?
Yeah.
About like gender.
Yeah.
And it's so white.
It's so white.
Yeah.
And maybe this is just like white people problems. I'm just not relating to it. Like when I talk about family trauma, I have family trauma. My mom just called me to eat an egg tomorrow because my dad made her put a curse on my life 18 years ago. She truly called me to do that. Yeah, that's trauma. You can't even talk to your own siblings?
Yeah, that's who she should have been talking to.
Absolutely. Like, girl, you have to go to therapy. You should not be worrying about getting dick down.
Right.
You need to go to therapy. You can't even talk to your siblings to calm the fuck down.
Right. To tell them, you guys are being stupid.
You can't tell your best friend / roommate that you like Twilight.
Yeah.
You need to go. You need help.
Yeah.
This was a cry for help. This is what that was. In comparison, like I feel like Jax's mom had his story was kind of more traumatic.
That she's dead? Sorry. Wait, which?
He actually like died when he was young, and then like his dad remarried, and everyone ignored him in the family.
That's also white. Sorry. Sorry.
Oh, my dad remarried. Nobody loves me.
Get over it. I'm rich. Oh.
So honestly, I think we've covered everything on this like notes of things that we're going to talk about. Is there anything else that you think that we're forgetting about this book and why it was so goofy?
I just want everyone to really, really realize that at the end, it's like a checklist, right?
Yeah.
She tells Jack whatever. She tells her mentor, F you, and she files a report. She tells her friend, I like Twilight.
Yeah.
She gets a different job.
Yeah.
It's just so, and I think the word I used earlier was like formulaic.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And maybe, is it a happy ending?
Is it?
Is it?
Because I still don't see the therapy appointment that she booked. You need therapy.
It's kind of, it's supposed to be, I guess, like a happy ending.
I guess the thing that's also that felt so flat for me is that Jack himself did not go through a character growth.
Yeah.
I mean, he wrote the apology letter. He's like, oh shit, maybe I should apologize because I ruined this entire theory or thought or whatever. And yeah, that was him acknowledging that your words and actions have like impact in the world, so you should like rectify that. And I guess that could be something that he learned from her. But really, I didn't really see what the benefit for him was for dating her.
Inexperienced sex?
Like as I was reading it, I was like, what about this? Like, why do you want to date her?
Yeah.
Because at one point he's like, I think they said I love you. Like they were in love.
Yeah.
And I was like, why do you love her?
Which also timeline wise, I know they do a flash forward of like 8 months at the end. And I think there's a lot she could have done with that.
Yeah.
Where it's not just like, oh, they're in love at the end, and
yeah,
I told my mom I can't talk to you right now, and it's just nothing there. Yeah, what does he
gain from this?
There's no tension between them.
Yeah.
Either.
None.
That's the issue.
None. There's no tension. And I feel like this is also, maybe this is actually a really deep book. And maybe it's a reflection of
Us? Are we the problem?
I think it's a reflection of like typical heterosexual, like what we're told that we should want relationships. Like you want a man who has it all figured out.
Yeah.
And you want him to come into your life and fix you up. And he's rich and he's successful and, you know, he's just kind of grooming you to be
big dick.
Right, to be a woman. And then you guys get married and you have kids and that's it.
Yeah.
But there's no actual discussion about what is he gaining emotionally out of this relationship besides a project to work on.
Ooh.
Like, what is the positive impact that she's having on him?
Right. Also with the project piece.
Okay. So, one of our favorite parts of the book is when, so we mentioned that she's like a type 1 diabetic, right? And so she has like the insulin patch or whatever it's called. And she has to change it, but she's like so embarrassed to change it in front of him after they've already had sex. Which is crazy.
That is
crazy. Did you not see it?
Another freaking hole in the book.
Right, like that's crazy. And she's like, I have to go into the bathroom and change my insulin. And he's like, let me see, like, let me watch you do it. And she's like, why? He's like, just in case I need to know how to do it or whatever.
He's like, I want to know.
Yeah, and she's just like, that's so romantic. And it's like,
why is that romantic?
It's not romantic.
It's not romantic. One, I would hope you would keep me alive.
Right.
And two, why is she... not to say people shouldn't feel how they feel around that. I get it. But if you were just busting my guts... I'm not going to be like,
oh my God, don't look. Like, first of all, like, he's seen you pass out twice.
Yeah.
Because you didn't change your shit quick enough.
Right.
Twice.
Yeah.
He wants to marry you eventually so you can get on so you can have health insurance. Just crazy.
So dumb.
Which is crazy. There must be a better way, America.
Yeah.
Besides marriage. So you get on someone's health insurance. And so, like...
Sidebar. This is a slight hole, but if he's rich, why do I have to get married? Can you not just give me the $400 to pay for my Obamacare?
I think I told you earlier that my coworker, just recently, he's also a type 1 diabetic, and he changed his little insulin, like, pod or patch, whatever it is, in front of me at lunch. And I didn't think, like, oh my God, sexual tension.
Yeah. So sexy.
In fact, I was like, I didn't know he was diabetic. Yeah. That's the first thought that I had. And I was like, cool.
Yeah.
I wonder how it works, was a thought that I had. And then I went back to eating.
I will say, maybe we're saying that as two people who've had, like, some exposure to, like, medical things.
That's true.
If I'm thinking about somebody who's
That's true.
not... No, honestly, no. As an adult...
No, people aren't perfect.
Right.
And I think that maybe she's talking about something deeper.
She's not.
Like, women think that they have to be so perfect that any sign of imperfection you have to apologize for.
Okay, AP. You're right. I could see that, but the way you said it was so much better than it was delivered in the book.
And that is what she's trying to speak upon. She's like, imagine you have this thing on you that keeps you alive.
Yeah.
And you have to apologize for him having to look at it.
Get some fucking... So stupid. Obviously, we think this book is not great.
Yeah, I wouldn't recommend it to anyone.
I will, own my piece. I'm the one who recommended this.
You did.
I was like the last one to read it.
Yeah.
Because I saw it on Book Talk. I was in the bookstore. I was looking for my pick of the, for a read. And I was, comparing it with what was on Book Talk. And people love this shit.
They love it.
Yeah.
The ratings are amazing. Like, people love it.
On Goodreads, it's almost has like 5 stars.
And I think it's because we're taught to believe that this is what we want.
That this is romantic.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's so unromantic. Like, it's not... Oh my God, yeah. We're in a bad place.
Yeah. the world is ending.
Oh my god.
So after I finished on my bus ride here,
Yeah.
I looked up book reviews, and there was one person who said they wanted the author to make a PG-13 version. This was too spicy for them.
That's a thought.
Like, what would you rate the spice? 1 to 5. How many stars?
How many, like, chili peppers?
Yeah.
The spice? I would give it a 1.
Same.
Nothing even, like, nothing happened.
Yeah.
I felt like I was reading a recipe out of a
Yeah.
fucking web article. It wasn't good.
How do you?
Wait, go ahead.
I was gonna say, how do you feel about the word cock?
Don't like it. I don't like it. I don't like it. I feel like it's really aggressive. It's abrasive. It makes me. It's like a jump scare when I see it. I don't like it in this book.
Yeah.
I think there are other books where I could read it and be like, oh, that was intentional.
Yeah.
But this book, again, I think this writer is writing on things she's never experienced.
I gave it a 3.
You give it a 3?
Yeah.
Okay. Because you can finish it?
Yeah.
Yeah. Sometimes if I can finish it, I'll give it like a 3 default.
Yeah, because it's not good, but it's for someone.
You're right. I think that if I think back on it, I might have also given it a 3. I know God of Malice, I gave it a 1. That should never be published. But I think this one, I did give a 3. Because it's not for me. It's for someone else.
Yeah.
Who is living a very sad life.
Yeah.
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 But okay. That's our review of Love Theoretically.
What are we reading next?
Twisted Games
Yes.
by, I forgot her name. It's like Anna Huang. We are reading, Twisted Games by Anna Huang, possibly. I've seen mixed reviews. It's very
Really?
popular on TikTok, but most recently I've seen more people being like,
Okay.
So it could be another one of these, but I really do like reading like the top popular books. They're fun.
Yeah.
So we'll keep it going. If you guys have any recommendations for what we should read after that book, or even in between, let us know either here on YouTube or on TikTok, obviously. But yeah, thanks so much for watching this podcast review, and we'll see you guys in October.
Bye.
Bye.